Welcome to this bonus edition of Fantasy Football Today. Adam Aizer and Dave Richard breaking down the breaking news. Dave with a jacket today. You look sharp.
Just came from CBS Sports HQ where I was asked to give some fantasy analysis on the big news, which is
the J.K. Dobbins had dinner with the Broncos.
He had steak.
Oh,
wow.
Oh.
And a Merlot to go with it.
And Dave, how did he have that cooked? Okay, let's get to the real.
He had a medium rare, although this is where Jamie would make a joke about how if he was like me, he would have had it sent back. But of course, you're going to send your steak back if it's garbage. No, the big news, clearly the Colts, Michael Pittman limping off practice, Anthony Richardson with his shoulder. Is that the big news?
No, big news
now Daniel Jones. Woo, big time maybe.
Aaron Rodgers is reportedly going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think we've been operating all offseason as if that was going to happen.
Right. So that's why this isn't big news, because we kind of figured that was going to happen.
It's not, but we have new audience members, right? We're into June. Not everybody's been listening since February, or March or whenever. So let's talk about it. Let's get this out of the way. He's a super flex quarterback, and that's it for now. Right?
Yes. Agreed. I think there's 20 other quarterbacks I'd rather have.
But he does play at the Jets in week 1. Do you think he'll crack your top 20?
There's going to be 24 other quarterbacks I'd rather start in week 1 than Aaron Rodgers taking on the Jets.
It is a poetic revenge game. He also plays the Packers this year. If he does in fact sign with the Steelers, it's not official yet, but all right. So biggest impact with this Rodgers signing is for who?
I would guess it's going to be DK Metcalf, but I mean, because the targets would have been terrible if they were coming from Mason Rudolph or somebody else that the Steelers picked up off the scrap heap. And he will probably be the first Steelers player taken in fantasy drafts, followed closely by Kaleb Johnson. I don't think there's going to be many other Steelers players that we're going to be real excited to take. There might be like 1 more, 2 more, if you include the DST. In a 1 QB draft that actually get picked.
Rodgers had the second most pass attempts in football last year. He played every game, but the Jets were 4th or 5th in pass attempts overall. Do you think Arthur Smith gets away from his run-heavy tendencies now that he has a more seasoned quarterback? He did have Matt Ryan. I think they threw the ball a decent amount that year. I'll check.
60.9% of the time, which is, I would agree, decent.
Yeah.
That's not so bad. You'll take 60%, especially from somebody like Arthur Smith. But that's the career high pass rate for Smith as a play caller 6 years into his NFL play calling career. I'm going to guess that the Steelers fall under that mark. I'm going to guess that Rodgers actually is going to like not having to throw the ball 34, 35 times per game. And that the Steelers, with their rookie running back and improved offensive line, they try and win games, the Steeler way, which has typically been running the ball, dominating defenses up front, and then leaning on the pass when needed.
I would say this a lot. The thing I like the most about Aaron Rodgers. Do you see that?
I didn't see anything. What happened?
You notice anything about me, about my shot?
Hey, your hair looks nice today.
Yeah, my background fell off the wall again. So
it's just time for a new background.
It's just, you know what? It could be time for thumbtacks. Maybe I should just stop with the tape.
What have you been using? It's been a 4-year-old draft board. For crying out, what have you been using?
Yeah, Scotch tape. Just a lot of Scotch tape.
Oh my gosh!
I'm gonna put holes in the wall, But
I think to be a professional here. Look at this. This is state-of-the-art museum glass behind me right here.
Well, yeah, you have a very good background. Anyway, Aaron Rodgers finds one target and he just goes there over and over and over again. First 6 games of the season, Garrett Wilson was on pace for 190 targets. Then they traded for Davante Adams. Last 11 games of the season, Davante Adams was on pace for 176 targets. He averaged 10 targets per game while sharing the field with Garrett Wilson. I even think if you look at Allen Lazard for half of the season, and then Christian Watson got healthy and he started getting those targets. And they're not just targets, they're red zone, green zone, end zone targets. Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball to DK Metcalf. I'm going to say DK Metcalf, I don't know his highest target share of his career, target share. It's always tough to look at that because you miss a game, it hurts your target share. But I think he's going to have I think he could have a career high in target share this year. I don't know if it's going to be a career high in targets, but he's going to get a lot of them, and he's going to get the most important ones. And I really like this for DK Metcalf. When I said this a few months ago, I don't think people were really on board. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think this is really good for him.
I believe DK Metcalf has had more than 7 targets per game for 5 straight seasons and has been over 15 PPR points once.
Look, usually before last year was a disappointing year, but usually he was always finishing around wide receiver 22 or something like that.
Right. So I think you try to draft him a little bit lower than that. Try and take him as like one of the best wide receiver 3s in fantasy, because I think you're right. The targets should be there for him. I don't think the Steelers will throw the ball a crazy amount of the time, but still, you're going to see a large share going to DK Metcalf. And Metcalf was on his way. I think he averaged like 15.1 PPR points per game before he got hurt last year. Remember when he got hurt, he got carded, and it looked like that was like the end of his season. He came back. He wasn't the same guy. I don't necessarily want to judge him for that. I think 14 PPR points is a real fair expectation for him. And that's right about what Garrett Wilson averaged playing with Aaron Rodgers all year last year, with most of that time being the number 2 target getter. And Garrett Wilson finishes inside the top 24. So I've got Metcalf 25th in my receiver rankings. And I think that's a fair spot to put him at. And I think you're looking at like late round 5, early round 6, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. Okay. So would you like DK Metcalf or George Pickens?
I believe I have Metcalf over Pickens.
Travis Hunter or DK Metcalf?
I believe I have Hunter over Metcalf.
Okay. Jerry Jeudy or Metcalf?
Jeudy over Metcalf. I want to give you a couple of interesting stats, if I may.
Go for it. And then let's finish up. We'll just talk about Freiermuth and anyone else just to get it out of the way.
Okay. So the first one is one you probably could have predicted. The last time Aaron Rodgers averaged over 20 fantasy points per game was 2021. And it's only been 2 years, because we shouldn't count 2023 against him. He didn't play that much. But it's been a while since he's been good for fantasy. Here's the one that surprised me. This is a team stat. The Jets last year saw the lowest rate of 8 men in the box, 12.4% of their running back runs. That tells me that defenses still worry about getting beat by Aaron Rodgers, and to a degree, his best receivers. Jets had some good receivers last year, so it's not like the defenses were like, I think that they were worried about getting beat by Aaron Rodgers, but also the receivers played a role to it. I wonder if that's going to replicate this year, and that teams playing the Steelers are still going to be concerned about Rodgers beating them on longer throws. And that could open things up for the run game. And you know that Arthur Smith loves to run the ball. They've got a fresh running back in Kaleb Johnson. Johnson's going to be in that same range for me, maybe a little bit later than DK Metcalf, at least in full PPR. But round 6 type pick with Aaron Rodgers under center, and the team will still run the ball a lot. I'm kind of intrigued. I want to see where that could go. I still think Kaleb Johnson's going to be the 1A and Jaylen Warren will be the 1B. But Johnson might end up getting maybe 1 or 2 more touchdowns than we could have projected. Certainly way more if it were Mason Rudolph. But I think he could get to 7 or 8 as a rookie.
Did you know that Aaron Rodgers has been top 10 in running back target rate in 4 of his last 5 seasons?
That's great.
Isn't that neato?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in our consensus rankings, we have Kaleb Johnson 25th at running back, just after David Montgomery and Quinshon Judkins, ahead of Aaron Jones. And then Jaylen Warren is 30th in our consensus PPR rankings. So got a question here from Mike. Adam, do you think I could use this to gaslight my league mates into letting Kaleb Johnson fall to 202 in a 12-team league? So that would be in a dynasty draft. Well, I'm going to tell you this. I'm doing a Superflex dynasty draft right now. We're at 201, and Kaleb Johnson is still on the board. I do believe he's going to select it at 201. There's only been 2 quarterbacks taken, Ward and Dart. So
that surprises me. I would have expected Kaleb Johnson to be picked already.
Yeah, Judkins went 8th, and then after that it was Matthew Golden, Colson Loveland, Emeka Ibuka, and Jackson Dart. So,
I mean, when you line up Judkins versus Johnson, and you think about which team's going to score more points just in a vacuum, you'll lean toward the Steelers. And you think about the play callers, both of them love to run the football. I know Judkins is good. He's going to split just like Kaleb Johnson will. I think you can make the case that Kaleb Johnson's the better fantasy pick.
Absolutely, you can make that case. So, all right, any other takeaways like Freiermuth or Roman Wilson, anything like that?
Freiermuth was always in the streamer tight end category. I don't think anybody's drafting Freiermuth as like a blue chip. Let's wait 3 or 4 weeks and see what happens. If you like the matchup against the Jets are changing their safeties, and obviously there's a big, scheme change with their new coach coming in. Maybe that's an okay matchup for Pat Freiermuth. Obviously, that's contingent on the Steelers not adding anybody else. Our NFL insider at CBS Sports, Jonathan Jones, believes that they are trying to add somebody else. And it could be Jonnu. That would obviously change things quite a bit. It could be another receiver somewhere else that we're not thinking about. That would obviously hurt Pat Freiermuth. He's a late round pick. Roman Wilson's a good route runner, and he's got good hands. So I wonder if Aaron Rodgers takes a liking to him, provided that, Roman is like able to run routes and he's healthy and all that. And I think he has been. Maybe put him on your radar with a late round pick in full PPR, but it's a big maybe. And again, it's contingent on the Steelers standing pat and not making any more moves.
Well, it's interesting that the Jets and Steelers traded quarterbacks, basically, at least for it's the first 6 games for the Steelers.
Yeah. And we talked about it, man. Like Rodgers' efficiency just overall wasn't as good as Fields was in 6 games last year. In fact, Rodgers was closer to Fields in 2023 than Fields in 2024. The obvious difference being touchdown rate. Rodgers he had 28 touchdowns last year. 7 of them came against the Dolphins and Jaguars late in the year.
All right. Well, we get to see them in action week 1 on CBS. All right. For Dave Richard, I am Adam Aizer. Thanks so much for watching this bonus podcast and listening to this bonus podcast. We'll talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. See ya.